Hello everybody and welcome to another video. Now this is the last video of my birthday marathon. Throughout the week we've been looking back at the heavy metal music from like early 90s, 1991 to 1993. That sort of informed, inspired and shaped my taste in heavy metal music. Because when I was about 11 years old, just starting high school or secondary school, whatever you want to call it, my brother used to record this heavy metal music show called Headbangers Ball off MTV, back when MTV actually played music and made shows worth watching. So he used to record that on a Sunday evening, and then throughout the week before we went to school, he would put on these heavy metal music videos for about an hour before we set off to school. And that's where my taste in heavy metal really started forming. I mean, before then I'd heard bands like, AC/DC, Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath, Dio, Judas Priest, that sort of thing. I'd heard them before. But it was when I started watching these heavy metal music videos of a morning before going to school that my taste in music really started to take hold. It really started to form. And, some of the videos, I remember some really, really well. Some of them, I've only got a vague recollection of, and I can't remember the name of the song or the band. But I just thought it would be fun to look back at these sort of songs. And today we're going to be looking at a band called Xentrix. Now, back then, I used to call them Xentrix, because it's Xentrix. So I called them Xentrix. But apparently, it's Xentrix. Now, I can honestly say I haven't actually listened to any of their music outside of this one song. I think this is the only song of theirs I've ever actually heard. A track called For Whose Advantage. But this band, I really liked this track. It was a sort of thrash metal song, but it had some really cool, catchy riffs. They really sort of caught me. And to me at the time, I thought of them as Slayer light. Now, I've mentioned on several occasions, I'm not a big fan of Slayer. I don't like very much of their music at all. I find them incredibly boring and incredibly repetitive. And I know there is going to be some people who are going to go, oh, they're not repetitive, you just don't know their music very well, blah, 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 blah. Which is fair enough. But most of the Slayer music that I've heard, I just didn't like because, to me, it all sounded very similar. I'm sure there's a vast variation, I'm sure there is. But I just don't find them interesting enough to investigate further. But this band, this Xentrix, like I said, I think this is the only song of theirs I've ever actually heard. But I really liked it, especially because, the riffs to it really sort of, they really sort of grabbed me. They sort of stuck in my head. And that's pretty much the only reason I really liked this track. But I like this track. It's one of my favourites, And, maybe at some point I will actually have to go and find the album that this comes from, which I believe is called For Whose Advantage, so I can actually listen to some more of their music. But anyway, like I said, it's the only track of theirs that I'm actually familiar with. So we're going to jump into this track. I have lyrics here. I've never actually looked at the lyrics of this track either, because, back in 91, 92, 93, it wasn't easy to find the lyrics for a song unless you went out and bought the album. And, not every album had lyrics in the liner notes, which I think was just stupid. And that's something I really miss about digital downloaded music. You don't get the little booklet to sit there and read the lyrics along with the music. Anyway, that's beside the point. So we'll jump into this track, and we'll revisit For Whose Advantage by Xentrix. Let's have a look.
It's to their advantage that we go into these backward countries and build up their economy by utilising and developing their natural resources for the benefit of...
ideals unjust, like your reality. Visible truth enslaving you for useless vanity. They do not want to see their own stupidity. Unskilled hands will cut a shade out of necessity. Incompetence and sickening greed, void of mentality. Abolish choice, death to the voice. This machine has a lie. You violate, then to create. Keep smiling while you die. They do not want to see their own stupidity. Foes advantage anyway. This reckless nature you display is raping those who have to obey.
I love that riff.
Undignified, undisciplined, undeserved, unashamed, unexplained, undisturbed. They do not want to see their own stupidity. Foes advantage anyway. This reckless nature you display is raping those who have to obey.
There you go. For Whose Advantage by Xentrix, or as I used to call them, Xentrix. Now, I just love the opening riff to that track. You know, it's one of those riffs that really sort of stuck with me. And like I said, this is pretty much the only song of theirs that I actually know. But I always really liked it. You know, it's not exactly technical, it's not exactly earth-shattering, but there's just something about it that always stuck with me, and especially that opening riff. Now, the actual lyrics to this is all based around corporate greed. And again, this is something I didn't know at the time when I first heard it. But just having looked at I've never actually looked at the lyrics before until now. So looking at it here, the song is about corporate greed, basically. And, you know, this is a subject that's been covered quite a few times on this channel. And, you know, I've even written a song about corporate greed. Can't remember what I called it now. Opulophagia. Eating the rich. But yeah, the song is pretty much hits it straight on the nose right from the very start. It says, corporate decisions made each day affecting everyone. Commercial growth is all that counts, not harming anyone. Invading trust, ideals unjust, hide your reality. Invisible truth, enslaving youth for useless vanity. So, you know, corporate decisions made every day affecting everyone. You know, all these 1%ers that, you know, control all these businesses, they're making all these decisions to their own advantage, you know, for whose advantage anyway? Well, theirs, you know. They will do anything and everything to make sure that they get richer and we keep getting poorer. You know, they make corporate decisions that affect everyone, whether it's raising taxes or increasing prices, you know, that sort of thing, you know. They make these decisions because, you know, it's what they want, because it makes them richer, but they don't care about how it affects everybody else. Commercial growth is all that counts, not harming anyone. You know, all they care about is growing their empire, growing their vast amounts of wealth. And as far as they're concerned, it's not hurting anyone, because it doesn't have any negative effect on them, so it can't possibly be hurting anybody else, could it? You know, what about all these little people that are doing all the work for you? You know, how are you affecting them? You know, you're raising prices of everything. Are you raising their wages? I don't think you are. They do not want to see their own stupidity. Unskilled hands work unashamed out of necessity. Incompetence and sickening greed, void of mentality. Abolish choice, deal to the voice, dismiss it as a lie. You violate, claim to create, keep smiling when you die. So unskilled hands work unashamed, like all these CEOs and all these people that are in like positions of power, they have no actual skills whatsoever. You know, they've most of them have never worked a day in their life. You know, they've just been handed this corporation or whatever it is because their daddy gave it to them or their mummy gave it to them, or, you know, they're just born with a silver foot in their mouth, you know. So, you know, they're running these companies that they know absolutely fuck all about, and they don't care so long as they keep lining their pockets. You know, incompetence and sickening greed, void of mentality. You know, they don't care about the people below them. They don't care how many ants they have to stand on, just so long as they keep filling their pockets. You know, abolish choice, deal to the voice, dismiss it as a lie. You know, when people sort of question them, you know, and say, you know, do you realise what you're doing to the people? They go, no, we've done our research. And no, everybody, you know, the people that work for us, they're very, very happy. They're contented with what they do. What we're doing is best for the people, and they will thank us for it. You know, as soon as they get called out on their bullshit, they'll just, you know, say, look, here's several £1,000, shut up. It's not real. You know, I hate people like that. Anyway. They do not want to see their own stupidity. For whose advantage anyway the reckless nature you display is raping those who have to obey. So, you know, you're doing all this, but for whose advantage? You know, you're not doing this to help the people like you claim you are. You know, you're saying everything that you're doing is for the betterment of the population. You're saying, you know, we're making this and this and this to help the people. It's for the best. It's for mankind. No, it's fucking not. All you want to do is make yourself and your little 1% of friends rich, and you don't care how the people below you suffer. It's like all these politicians. You know, all these rich politicians, all these CEOs, all these high-powered business people. They don't pay tax, yet we're getting taxed to fuck. How the hell does that work? You know, those people can afford to pay tax. We can't. Yet they're getting away with not paying it, and we get sent to prison if we don't. How the fuck does that work? You know, for whose advantage anyway? It's only to the advantage of the rich 1%. The reckless nature you display is raping those who have to obey. You know, their flagrant disregard of these rules, this, you know, not caring about the people below them, it's hurting us, you know, the common everyday people, you know. It's raping those who have to obey. You know, we have to pay tax or we get sent to prison. We have to do this. We have to do that. Otherwise, our life crumbles around us. And they're just sitting there, up in their ivory towers, eating caviar, watching us suffer and die in the puddles beneath them. Undignified, undisciplined, undeserved, unashamed, unexplained, undisturbed. They do not want to see their own stupidity. For whose advantage anyway, this reckless nature you display is raping those who have to obey. So, you know, it's essentially a song about corporate greed, and like I said, this has been covered quite a few times on the channel, and, you know, like I say, I even wrote a song about this because it's something that really pisses me off. You know, you see all these bloody rich politicians, these CEOs, sitting there complaining that they have to pay. The tax that they would have to pay would make such an insignificant dent in their bank balance. They wouldn't even notice it had gone. You know, by the time they paid that tax, they probably would have made it back by whatever their company is earning anyway. So how comes they're getting away with not paying it? Whereas we're paying taxes and then we're struggling to pay for a house to live in. We're struggling for food. We're struggling for heat and electricity. How does this work? What the fuck is going on? It makes no sense. You know, you can make all the billions and millions you want, but what are you actually doing with it? You're just sitting there watching all the zeros in your bank balance get higher and higher and higher. You know, what are you doing with it? Nothing. All you're doing is wasting on fucking hookers, 3 holiday homes, and fucking parties. That's it. You know, you're not actually doing anything worthwhile with it. You know, if I was like a multi-billionaire, you know, I'd be bloody offering money to charities and shit like that, you know, actually helping people, rather than sitting there going, oh, I don't know if I can spare 150 quid this week. You know, there was always that statement about Bill Gates. Now, I know Bill Gates does a lot of philanthropy. You know, he helps a lot of charities and stuff like that. But there was that thing about if Bill Gates dropped a $100 bill, he would lose more money in the time that it took him to pick it up than if he just walked away and left it there. And, you know, that's what it must be like for all these other multi-billionaires who've got all this fucking money and doing nothing with it, except for buying, like, multiple cars, hookers, drugs, and homes. You know, why not actually do something worthwhile and help the people? Why not put policies in place that actually help the people that need the help, rather than sitting there watching your bank balance get big and bloated with money that you're never going to use? You know, you're just hoarding it. You're not doing anything with it. And, you know, that's exactly what this song's talking about. And, you know, it's... yeah. It's a real sore subject for me. But like I said, it's the only song that I know by the band. And, you know, it always stuck with me, mostly because of that opening guitar riff. You know, I just really liked it. So, yeah. I'm going to leave that as it is. Now, like I said, this is the last song of my birthday marathon week. I'm hoping you've enjoyed it and enjoyed looking back at all these sort of old tracks from the early 90s, and I've quite enjoyed it as well. It actually took me ages to try and figure out which tracks to use because, you know, I messaged my older brother and said, can you remember the songs that we used to listen to on Headbangers Ball? And between me and him, we wrote out this list that went on for bloody miles. So it was really quite difficult to pick out the tracks that I actually wanted to use. I actually have several more, but there's no way I could have done like 3 or 4 videos a day because that would have just been stupid. So, you know, who knows? Maybe in the future I might do a flashback Friday or something like that, where, you know, I'll do a flashback to an old song. You know, might be an idea, something to do. But yeah. I'm hoping you enjoyed that week of nostalgia, because I certainly did. Because a lot of those songs, you know, like I say, I really enjoyed them, but I haven't listened to them in a while. And, you know, it's good to go back, watch the videos, and sort of remember the days when things well, from my perspective, weren't so bad. But yeah, back to normal next week. Yeah, if you enjoyed this video, maybe give it a like, maybe even subscribe if you're not subscribed already, because it would really help me out. But yeah, thank you all very, very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.